we have a number of words we've placed on the board here. Now, this is really, if we wanted to use the word, let's connect the dots. These meanings are so connected that it's essential that you go down these because this has a lot to do with the understanding, not only what happened in the book of Genesis, where original sin occurred, or debt, but also the lie and the father of the lie, the origin of this, and of course eating from the wrong tree, the wrong trust, versus eating from the tree of life, which they had the opportunity to go to. So it is amazing that these all connect into that, and how the system operates correctly. It is operating properly. People may think that I'm gone off the deep end by saying that right now, but I wouldn't know what you would do with the amount of crazies out there right now, insane people who don't know the difference between truth and fiction, and then want to chase a fictitious instrument to think that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that they've been robbed from out of a digital imaginary system. So, who's more nuts? Well, I'm going to leave that up to your decision, because certainly there are going to be many people that would weigh against me right now for even mentioning this. But in the beginning document, there's a lot going on here. And because the legal world works in the concept of fiction, it's already in make-believe, it's already in supposition and assumption and fraud and all these words that connect. And so I want you to look them up because they're important in the concept of this. And so when we read out of the UN handbook, which we did before, dealing with how the UN, which is connected to against the World Health Organization, basically handles civil registration. Now remember, don't get too comfortable with the word civil because it means pagan and a heathen and someone who doesn't know the true God. And that's why they assign gentilities or surnames onto the population to mark them as beasts who do not know who the true God is. So therefore, the system is operating to separate people, one side from the other, truth from fiction, good from evil. And so hopefully these videos are going to educate you on how the most important book, the Bible, will help you to understand this and why we bring it up so much in the videos. So when we go to the UN handbook, and this is kind of giving you an understanding of the cloaking device that goes on, because if you were Satan or you were a liar, wouldn't you want to cloak truth with a lie or fiction? Wouldn't you want your lie name to be over and above the truth, superior to, in a system that you operate with the devil's advocates, who are your minions to actually bring people to the bargain, okay, which is the mammon, the gain. So we're gonna go to the UN handbook on civil registration and vital statistics. Read from it before, but we need to go over it again. Under section 144, it states, since the registration record is used as proof, it should be safeguarded from changes, which means that the law or its regulations should ban erasures, that means completely erasing something out, additions, adding something to it, the document, insertions between the lines, etc. Although, to allow for the possibility of errors when making entries, formal rules should be enacted to make exceptions for such mistakes in the record itself. For example, by providing that the word that is wrong or superfluous be underlined, the error or omission then being noted at the end before the record is dated and signed by the registrar and informant. So interestingly, wouldn't they underline the supposition, which they did on this particular version of a birth record, a statement of birth record? They underline the error because there is no right to bear arms in Canada, and that's a laid down case. So therefore, this is a prohibition document, not a go-ahead document. And therefore, not having the understanding of that could have a lot to do with why most people wouldn't understand the issuance of this particular instrument, the birth certificate, not to be confused with the statement of birth record that the parents fill in at the hospital. This document is not an extract from this. It comes from a separate instrument after they compare two other forms, one that the doctor fills out and one that the parents fill out, and then they create a birth certificate which just takes a piece of something that looks like it's part of one document or part of both, and then they put them together in a manner that does not say given name or surname. And therefore that makes it ambiguous and unclear, but they certainly look like they didn't trespass on anybody because this instrument does not have those details. And you'll find that your driver's license, if you're operating with one, does not have given name or surname on that. It only happens when the police officer is in the computer running the license number and then your face pops up on the screen, but he certainly didn't get it from any document that you gave him in particular dealing with distinguishing given name and surname. It's not in there. But they certainly usually like using the terminology family name, which comes from the Roman definition, has nothing to do with what you believe that name means or anything to do with many of the, I'd say, misconceptions coming from different sites talking about mainly all capital letters and things like that. The Roman alphabet already had that, and they use that for title, and therefore it's even used throughout the Bible, even for the name of God in Psalms 83 verse 18. Prints God's name in all capital letters. So we want to be at least accurate in what we're digesting and get off of these bad trains of thought before you disrail into a oncoming collision with the truth that's going to definitely knock you right off of that wrong track. So when we're basically going into these words, I'm only going to read you some simple definitions. I got them out of Noah Webster's 1828, so you know that for reference. We're going to go to fraud. Guile, disguise, deceit, deception, trick, artifice, by which the right or interest of another is injured. A stratagem intended to obtain some undue advantage. An attempt to gain or the obtaining of an advantage over another by imposition or immoral means, particularly deception in contracts or bargain or sale, either by stating falsehoods, which would be fiction, or suppressing truth. Now we have to remember that when you're engaged in fraud, if both parties are participating in it, so let's just say the state induced the use of your real name, your God-given name, your truthful name, and then if that's not transferable to the state anyways, and then it's being used so that they can transfer or convey or assign a surname by implication onto you, even though the document that your parents fill out does not give you any title or go ahead on it. We're assuming to go ahead on it. Therefore, we've got both participating in a fraud. Both sides shouldn't be involved with each other. But anyways, we go on to the next statement. It says fraudful, the next definition, deceitful in making bargains. Always break these words down, bargains. Trickish, treacherous, applied to persons containing fraud or deceit, applied to things. Remember Paul's words to the Galatians when he said in Galatians 6:3, if a man thinks he's something when he's no thing, he deceiveth himself. So if you think you're the thing on that title, on that surname, you're in deception of your own mind. You're doing this to yourself. Disguise, to hide by a counterfeit appearance, to cloak by a false show, by false language, or an artificial manner. This is out of the quote, out of the Noah Webster's 1828 on disguise. Remember the mask, the legal mask, which is happening right now. It's just they got people to come out and actually put a mask on their dead body corporate. By the laws of England, persons doing unlawful acts in disguise are subjected to heavy penalties and in some cases declared felons. An artificial or assumed appearance. So are you engaged in that? Are you assuming the appearance and then energizing it and then wondering why they're bringing these penalties and fines on you? You just have to stop. That would be the beginning of it. How you're going to stop, that would be like me telling you, what do you do if you're in the burning house? You're going to have to get out. You're not going to be sitting in there figuring out, well, I don't know where I'm going to go. It'd be better to get out of the house and take the next step from there than to actually leave yourself in the burning house. which would be like suicide. Now we're on to the word assumption. The act of taking to oneself. The act of taking for granted. Oh boy, the government always loves things that are for granted because you'll be paying for them. Or supposing a thing without proof. Supposition, undertaking, a taking upon oneself. You must be carrying around the dead body because that's what undertakers do. Supposition. The act of laying down, imagining, or admitting as true or existing what is known not to be true, or what is not proved. Plain truths need not be proven. In the world of legal, you're always having to bring in the proof, and you have no way of proving you have that title. You're just assuming it. Even the little document that you've used to get into the mess doesn't even say surname or given name, and you're assuming it does. Nice try. But they will try all, and they give everybody a 30-day free trial offer to try all who think that they do have the title. Welcome to the Court of Chancery. Okay, so now we're into it, the last word there. Supposititious. Okay, so we put this as an interesting word, put by trick in the place or character belonging to another, not genuine, as a supposititious, I'll get that word later. I've had it tangled on that, so I'm not perfect either on these enunciations. A child. So fraudulently substituted, spurious, falsely presented as a genuine heir. Imaginary, based on a supposition, hypothetical. Well, didn't we realize that they've already stated in the handbook that the name that is underlined on that document, which has happened right across many of the Ontario birth registrations, has that noted as a supposition. You're just supposing that you have that title. And therefore it being what it is, we've walked into a problem and we didn't see it. And now that you are now realizing that once you start to understand these definitions, these words, then you're taking the cloak off and now you can see the truth. But if you keep on wearing the cloak of legal deceit, the garbage that consumers use, who waste and destroy, Samuel Johnson's Dictionary 1755, then we are going to continue down a bad path, a broad path leading to destruction. If we see the light of truth, then we're going to go down the narrow path to life. And very few are the ones finding it. So if you're feeling that you're alone and surrounded by a very large audience doing the complete wrong thing, it's because of the chaos of the mind and the lack of knowledge, and therefore, unfortunately, the majority of that population will perish.